Now, I'd like to welcome to the studio Tomasz Sajewicz from Polish Radio. You're the Polish radio correspondent in Malaysia.
In Asia.
In Asia.
In
all of Asia.
China. Thank you for having me.
Okay, yes. Thank you for coming in today. We appreciate that we were able to catch you while you're here in Warsaw. Thank you.
But before we start, where are you usually based?
18 years in Beijing, and at the moment is KL, Kuala Lumpur, and recent research is on Spice Islands. Do you know where's the Spice Islands, guys? Northern Moluccas. Jakarta, Indonesia.
Wow.
So both places. Quite far.
Exciting.
Okay.
Well, we feel very privileged to have you here.
Yes, great to have you. Now, we've been talking about German Chancellor Olaf Scholz paying a visit with some of the biggest German companies to China. And of course, you know, there's a big disconnect when we look at the U.S. approach towards China and the European approach towards China. You know, we hear a lot about decoupling in the United States, and here in Europe, and especially in Germany, we're hearing about de-risking. So I guess, first of all, that's my subject of discussion. Why would you say that there's such a big disconnect between the U.S. approach and the European approach, is seeing China as a potential threat?
Germany is not seen as a direct threat from the German perspective, from the EU perspective, as much as from the United States. We are saying, sometimes I do say that Chinese dragon has American horns, because the American way of thinking about China is thinking about a competitor and also as a country who can be a threat for the national security. Of course, China is thinking the same about the United States. When we are talking about Europe, we are more focused on economical ties. And of course, when we talk about European Union, believe me or not, but China does not believe in European Union per se. They prefer to make deals with Germany, with France, with two big EU countries. Of course, knowing before who was the Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel was 13 times on the official trips to Beijing. So Chinese know that if they want to do something with European Union, they have to ask in Berlin or in France. It's not good because it's creating a situation when there are two Europes. There's one Europe of chosen by China. This is the policy of China, divide and conquer, in this sense that China has its own map. It looks in different perspective on our region as well. When there was a format 16+1, which there was EU countries, non-EU countries, they put us together as Central and Eastern Europe. It shows how China looks at the world. It shows who is China ally. At the moment, it was before Germany, it is Germany, and it will be. For Germany, China is a very important partner because, for example, half of the revenue from the automotive industry, German automotive industry, comes apparently from China. So it will not change. Both countries are connected economically in that kind of high ties that decoupling in this relationship is impossible. Mm-hmm.
So basically, China puts aside any sort of geopolitical maps that might be accepted by the world in the wider sense and just establishes its own bespoke relationships with each individual country. That's what you're saying.
When you go to China, in every school you see, in Europe, in the United States, the map shows US as in the center. In Europe, right. We are in the center. I mean, like in Europe, in China, there's a China in the center. And also, for some of the reasons are obvious, some of them not. China really looks at itself as the middle kingdom in the middle of the world. And also those relationships are built according to Beijing's vision of the world's order. Sometimes it's similar to our perspective of democracy, of the values, but most of the perspectives and values we are not sharing with China and the Chinese government. And we should remember about it that not only money matters. Like Germany is a great example that money matters. For me, I spent almost 2 decades in China, and everybody knows, even you don't have to be a specialist on China, that in Xinjiang, which is like the Uyghur autonomous region, and it was confirmed by the United Nations that there are special labor camps with more than 1 million people. Okay, and there is also near them there is also a factory of Volkswagen. And it was proven. We were talking, German media were writing recently, the Handelsblatt were having their own investigation. It's not changing anything. Knowing Polish history, knowing Polish context, if it would happen in Poland with any kind of Polish company, the backlash, not only in our country, but the world, first of all, would be enormous. With Germany, it's more quiet. It shows how deep these relations are also from the historical point of view between China and Germany, and how deep they are connected economically.
But again, at the end of the day, it is all about money from that sense.
But we can, as a consumers, we are choosing. Should it be only about money? We can, as we can change the channels in TV, this is the easiest way, as we can choose what kind of brands we are buying. I think that example of Volkswagen in Xinjiang, even for German media, this is something very disturbing.
Right.
But knowing that who is coming with Chancellor Scholz to China, this is mostly the CEOs of the biggest German companies. They are making money. They are, especially China at the moment, is in the situation of not regaining its momentum since the start of coronavirus. The country is not obviously in the same path of growth. They know it, and they see that there's bigger and bigger disturbance in the society. The Chinese people, they see that China, it's not even going to the same moment as it was in 2020. So, of course, they have to make more that kind of economical cooperation with countries which are more friendly and more willing, because they're more also dependent on China.
Right. Well, what about market access? That seems to be a really important issue when it comes to China. It seems that China has access to global markets, to Western markets, at a disadvantageous standpoint compared to Western companies in China.
And this is every year European Union Chamber of Commerce, American Chamber of Commerce, they're issuing the white papers about the business environment in China. And believe me, since 2010, so for last more than 20 years, almost 13 years, this is the same main issue, which is not equal environment for Chinese companies operating in European Union or in US, or European or American companies in China. No one can influence Chinese government to change it. Chinese government, of course, every year they're saying they are doing some efforts, they are implementing small changes to the law, but overall, really Chinese companies they are using much more liberal environment, as we all and our industries in Europe. But our companies are under scrutiny of Chinese law, which are changing constantly. And this is one of the actually biggest problems, because this comes to the extent when, for example, it's not about, let's say, borrowing some patents, which is less and less obvious in the case of China, but it's still happening. But also, this is a problem because Chinese agencies, they don't see, for example, secrets, economical secrets, as the secrets. In China, it is a state secrets, and we are going to totally another level. There's a bunch of issues, and it seems really that for years no one have an idea how to solve them.